but it's fruitless in this game. I mean, you had no quarterbacks. It's like it was the worst NFC Championship game I've ever seen, not because of the score. It was because once it got to a certain point, you couldn't even throw the ball in a football game, and it's like just bloodletting at that point for like an hour and 15 minutes waiting for the AFC Championship.
Do you ever remember a game where they ran out of quarterbacks? I'm trying to think of the emergency. There's a couple I remember where the punter came in, and some game somewhere I remember the punter throwing some balls, but I mean, that's the thing. It got to a point where like usually the backup punter or somebody can come in and throw it, and it's like there's nobody. Can anyone throw the football? And I'm like, McGlinchey, I can throw it. I'm like, no, we can't do that. And like, the idea that you have no one that can throw the football, the game's over, and it's just disappeared. It evaporated. And I could tell you from right away, I could feel the championship tension, and I can feel that I wasn't sure how good the Eagles were or are. And I think just watching them for a quarter and a half until things kind of went haywire, they're a really good football team.
Yeah.
And I think they've gotten better and better, just like we have gotten better and better. And so it was going to be who knew what it was going to come down to, but the pass rush early on Brock clearly was going to be a problem, especially at the right side. And so it's just impossible to know if you can get righted, hold the score to 14-7. Even Josh, if he doesn't fumble the ball going at halftime and doesn't get knocked out, I still believe Kyle would have said at halftime, we go win this game. And I think everyone would have said, yeah, we can. And I think we all agree we could see a path forward with Josh, because a lot of the plays that are called are plays that are not asking, level 10 work from the quarterback. And so it was just, I think the whole thing went haywire when Josh got knocked, when he fumbled, that was a big haywire moment. And first haywire one was obviously Brock getting hurt. Then when he fumbled, then that kind of like a 2-score game on the road and championship game, it's going to be tough going to halftime, the momentum and everything. But then when he got knocked out of the game, obviously that was it. It was done.
Done.
Over.
Would you have liked to seen a little more urgency recovering the fumble?
Look, I think when you're not like championship speed is like none other. And there's 2 times when there's speed like that. Opening day, it's like opening day, you got to keep your head on a swivel. I mean, the thing is it's crazy. And then championship football, and I mean championship game, Super Bowl, the speed is incredibly quick and fast. And Josh had not played in a long time. And so it's just, your reactions are slower than everybody else's. I don't think he was not trying to get on the ball. He's just trying to find it in someone's legs. I think it was McGlinchey's legs or something was like down underneath him. He was just trying to dig it out and probably should have just been much more aggressive, of course. But look, it's just a tough spot for a guy to show up in championship football.
Yeah, Brent said it looked like him picking up Doritos.
Yeah, well, he's like it was as if he was. But I'm telling you, the ball got under. Was it McGlinchey's got underneath him? It was underneath, and he was trying to go get it without. I mean, you could ram into the back of his knees and go for it. I guess that's what he should have done. But I'm sure he was just trying to get down there and pick at it, right? And there's other guys that aren't. They're not trying to pick at anything. But that's what I mean. The speed is just it's another world.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
If we're sitting here trying to dissect whether Josh should have jumped on the ball or not.
That's all we have.
That's all we got, Steve.
That tells you how haywire this has gone.
That's all we have.
Out the gate, bro. We're done.
By the way, your last comment, I had a flashback to earlier this year when you told the story about your coach saying, "Hey, bro, be careful out there.
You be careful.
Hurt.
You're gonna get hurt. Yeah, you can really take a beat." And I don't know how I felt about that early pass rush from the Eagles, but that was a pass rush that we have not seen. We have not.
They were.
We haven't. The Cowboys were more like that, but it's just you think about the games that we played this season to see a 4-man pass rush that really threatened us. I don't know that we saw it all year long, and so all of a sudden the championship game, you could feel that early. Like this is going to be super difficult to deal with these 4 guys.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this, because it's something we've kind of thrown around all week. Challenging the catch by Smith or non-catch by Smith. And I said I wouldn't have challenged it just because I didn't get a shot of it. But I think Cope had the best answer. Just If you're not sure, just call a timeout. It's the first half. First half timeouts aren't death if you lose one of them. Maybe just take a timeout and give yourself 2 minutes to try to find a different replay.
Yeah, but the problem, and Kyle said it, I think, really well, is like no one could see it. And what you hope is that New York sees it. And because they rushed and didn't get it done in time, I agree with you. The reaction from the receiver is like a guilty conscience.
Yeah.
And so when he pops up with a guilty conscience, you say to yourself, that's not a bad idea. But then you burn a timeout when a guy cleanly – I mean, there's nothing anyone's seen. There's not an angle that says not to. In a championship format where everything matters, it's just – and you got less than a second to decide that because they're going to snap the ball. I hear you. But when your system has come up with nothing to just out of the air go, okay, timeout because, it just feels funny. I feel funny. Hey, I'm in a championship game. I feel funny. I'm going to call a timeout. Like, I don't know, Copes,
Dude,
the feel funny.
I feel funny.
I feel funny. Time out, everybody. Time out.
Oh,
I feel
man.
funny. I just need a chance to
trust your
regroup.
gut, Steve.
I just need to regroup and find myself. Little zen moment. Everyone just relax. Coach feels funny. Coach feels funny.
That's not on me, Steve. I didn't have anything to do with this, man. Tom's like, would you have thrown the flag? I was like, no, I think I would have called the timeout. That's the lesser of two evils, I thought there.
I feel funny.
But I felt funny about it, Steve. We're talking about Steve Young.
I feel funny. First 5 minutes of the game, I feel funny.
Yeah.
Time out.
By the way, they ended the game with all three,
Yeah. Right.
Well, they didn't need him at the end. That was brutal.
And it's just unusual for quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, very common for pitchers because the torque with a little ball in their hand is they rip them. And I said earlier, somebody we were talking about there's a paved road. Tommy John's a paved road for pitchers. Sometimes pitchers look forward to it, like because the data tells you that you come back with more velocity.
It's not if, it's when. You're right. Yeah.
But here's the problem though. Quarterbacking and ripping it and then grabbing a big wide when you have the ball in your hand is very wide and it changes all of the angles of the tendons and their ability to put torque. That's why pitching baseball is easier, right? Because you can get behind it. So football is a little bit different, and then the weight of the football too is more. So I have no expertise about what to think about this, but it's anyone says, oh, Tommy John surgery or whatever they're going to do. Oh yeah, you'll be back, no problem. I think so, but in football, it feels funny.
Yeah.
And so I'll be nervous until I see Brock throw again, but I'm sure he will.
Feels funny. Call timeout before you get surgery.
I feel funny. Timeout.
Let's talk about the surgery here. It feels funny.
If it feels funny, call timeout. We'll be good to go. What did you see from him this year? Because we're talking about if he's healthy, he's got to be the number one guy going into next year. Trey could push him depending on how his offseason goes, but how will film affect what Brock Purdy faces next year now that everyone has film on him and sees his strengths and weaknesses? How big of impact could that have?
So I think you saw a little that championship football. I don't know if I just felt it right away when Brock got hit. I didn't know that he'd gotten hurt, but it felt like the guys at the top of the game right now, the Josh Allens, the Burrow, Mahomes, if Justin Herbert got some help, we talk about this every week, but and Jalen Hurts, he could become one of those 3-4 guys. He could be on Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks today if he can figure out how to do the things that they're doing, be the closer. But it's the physicality of the position today. It's a game that you need to be a sophisticated thrower of the football and smart. Check for Brock. Got it. But you also have to be able to go get all of those yards and threaten and do some real damage because there's so much space that's created with the new rules, safety protocols, and defenses cannot attack. They can't attack the way they want to. They can't launch. We talk about it every week. So there's more space. And so in the upper echelons of the league, now I'm not talking about playing Atlanta. I'm not talking about playing, the rank and file teams. But I'm talking about the top of the league. That's where you want to be. How does Brock become and create an environment where he can go compete at that, tip of the spear, spot with those 3 guys, with those 4 guys. And that's what that's why did we draft Trey because we thought he had the physicality to go play against those guys. And so Brock will have to do it differently. Doesn't mean it can't be done. I think the degree of difficulty for somebody in his situation with his talents is like a harder dive. It's just a harder, but it doesn't mean that he's not capable of it. He's already shown how capable he is. And so to me, you got to lean into it, recognizing that, at the upper echelons, we're going to have to, and he's going to have to figure out, how do I make sure and go get those yards? How can I create a game that can be more physical and stronger? How can I gain 10 pounds? I mean, I'm just thinking about ways, because I'm thinking about championship football. Do we want to talk about rank and file regular season games? I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about going and winning Super Bowls. And these are the guys, and I told you, every year, the AFC, it's going to be Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes. Mm-hmm. That's it. Everyone else is staring down the mountain. And of those three guys, the one that has to beat two of them is at a disadvantage. So Joe Burrow had to beat two of them, got beat. And I just think that's going to go around in a circle until someone else can challenge. In the NFC, I think there's some space where you can say someone like, a physical presence like Brock, it's fine. But I just think that we got to think about how Brock's game can become that. Does that make sense to you? I'm trying to describe something
No, I got it.
that is very vital, because otherwise we'll always be in the mix, but we're not getting to the top. Yeah. And I think that's where we got to think about his game and how it needs to fit. But there's nothing that I don't love about what he did.
Well, it's kind of like what Tom was talking about this yesterday, in that you watch the AFC Championship and he's going, man, I hope the Chiefs can get some of their big receivers back for the Super Bowl, because Patrick Mahomes was winning the game, completing passes to guys like Marcus Kemp, who Tom and I had never even heard of before he caught a pass in the AFC title game. Like, that's how he's winning games.
Right. And you need help. There's no – look, the 49ers have plenty of help for the quarterback, maybe more than anybody other than the Eagles. And the Chiefs, these are the top of the league. They set it up for the quarterback to be great because they give him a lot of help. So there's plenty of help. And I agree with you. If people get hurt, things can get tougher, especially if he's limping around. But until otherwise, Patrick Mahomes and what he brings to the game, it comes down to the last couple of possessions, just like the NBA. And you have a guy that can go figure it out. And all of a sudden, how many times has Patrick Mahomes done that? How many times has Josh Allen done that? How has Joe Burrow? That's what they do every week. And but you got to have the help. And so if all of a sudden the help starts to dissipate for Mahomes, it gets incrementally more difficult.
Where do they try to start with trying to figure out Trey Lance? Because all the attributes you talked about, he still has those, and I would imagine they would love for him to be able to be accurate, process, and then have the abilities he has, because that opens up everything you just talked about. Problem is, we're not sure if he has those. I mean, when could they possibly know or feel confident that he's a guy that may have those abilities or not, because they just haven't seen him play enough? But I'm sure they'd love for him to show them, but I don't know when he's going to be able to show them.
The hope is that he's the kind of guy that needed to see it. When you see it, if you're that kind of a person that can take it in and go, oh, that's how you do it, that's what it's supposed to look like, now I've witnessed it. I think Jimmy showed him that, pieces of it. Brock showed him important pieces of it. And he watched it every day. And if he can take it in and somehow assimilate it, kind of alchemize it into his psyche, then we got hope. But if we get the same kind of thing without development, if not, because he has played very little. How many times have we talked about how little football he's played? Mm-hmm. Brock's played not 10 times, but close to 10 times more football than Trey's played. Can Trey start to assimilate and alchemize it into his life, so that he can be a bigger threat? Because as he started this season, there was struggles. There were big missing pieces to it. Can he fill it in by watching? And the OTAs, to me, I don't want to wait till the season. I want to start to see this stuff in the OTAs where it's like, oh, I saw it, I get it, and this is, watch me now kind of thing. And that's what I want to see right away. If I see the OTAs and it's like, I watched, and you know what, I kind of still do the same thing, and I kind of feel it, then I'm going to be like, hey, bro, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you play enough reps to get so that you can get comfortable, and we just got to see more, then that's fine too. But I want the feeling around the building, because the building says it. You don't have to wonder. it's the you can hear it. When you ask the question, how's he doing? Well, I want to start to hear like, oh no, it's a different guy. He's got it figured out, and that's what I want to hear right away.